Hello and welcome to Simple Science Lectures. In this video we are going to discuss the fundamentals of greenhouse effect and what we can do to minimize it. Now if we just look at what a greenhouse is, it is a structure made of glass which is used for growing plants in a protected environment. The primary use of a greenhouse is to protect plants from the cold weather. One striking feature of a greenhouse is that it is warmer than the surroundings. To understand why a greenhouse is warmer than its surroundings, we have to understand the basic features of light. A light beam travels in the form of a wave. A wave is like this. If you just see what a wavelength is, if you just measure the distance between this crest and the adjacent crest, this distance is called the wavelength. Light beam has a spectrum of wavelengths. The shorter wavelengths have higher energy and the longer wavelengths have lower energy. If you just try to understand how this greenhouse is warmer than its surroundings. Glass has a special property. Glass allows a shorter wavelength beam to pass through it, and it does not allow a longer wavelength. It actually reflects the longer wavelength back. Now if you see what happens to the light beam that enters this greenhouse. Now once this beam enters the greenhouse, it is absorbed by the objects inside it. So if this beam enters the greenhouse like this, it gets absorbed by the objects inside the greenhouse. Light beam contains energy, so once the objects inside the greenhouse absorb this energy, they actually dissipate this energy to the surroundings. Now while doing that, they send the energy out in the form of longer wavelengths. So this is what happens. The objects keep releasing energy in the form of longer wavelengths, and the glass sheet again does not allow the longer wavelengths to pass through it. So that means the energy which comes into the greenhouse gets trapped inside. The temperature inside the greenhouse keeps on increasing till it comes to an equilibrium condition. Because of this, the greenhouse is warmer than its surroundings. Now one example of the greenhouse effect is what we can observe in a parked car. When we park a car and leave it for a few minutes, and when we just come back, the car is usually hotter than the surroundings. This is because of the greenhouse effect, because the windows are made of glass and of course the windshield is made of glass. The same thing happens in the Earth's atmosphere, but here we have the greenhouse gases which play the role of the glass sheet in a greenhouse. Now here the greenhouse gases allow the shorter wavelengths to enter the Earth's atmosphere, and the energy is absorbed by the objects on the surface of the Earth. When the objects release the energy, they release it in the form of longer wavelengths. The longer wavelengths are again reflected back to the Earth's surface by the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. This is the reason why the atmosphere of the Earth is warmer when compared to the surroundings. Now when we see what the greenhouse gases are: water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, ozone, and chlorofluorocarbons and hydrofluorocarbons. Now if you just see these components, most of them exist in nature. For example, water vapor exists in nature, carbon dioxide, methane, ozone, and all these gases exist in nature. So greenhouse effect is a natural phenomenon that occurs in the Earth's atmosphere. Now without this greenhouse effect, the Earth would have been a lot colder. Now the problem with this greenhouse effect is that when it occurs naturally, the mean temperature of the Earth is actually maintained at around 15 degrees C. Now due to industrialization and use of fossil fuels, we have started releasing more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So this is what human beings have done in the past 50 to 70 years. We have started releasing a lot of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Now because of that, the carbon dioxide content in the atmosphere has increased and the overall greenhouse effect has increased. This resulted in a global temperature rise, which is also called global warming. The primary source of carbon dioxide is due to the burning of fossil fuels, mainly for the generation of electricity, as well as the carbon dioxide generated by the use of fossil fuels in our automobiles. Methane is generated by decaying matter. So it could be biological waste that actually are allowed to decay. So they actually release methane, and it also acts as a greenhouse gas. Nitrous oxide is released from automobile exhaust. Ozone is already present in the atmosphere. Chlorofluorocarbons and hydrofluorocarbons are refrigerants which are used in air conditioners and refrigerators. So these are man-made gases. Water vapor is already there in the atmosphere. Here are some of the things that we can do to minimize the greenhouse effect in the Earth's atmosphere. We can minimize the use of fossil fuels We can maintain our automobiles in good condition. We can minimize the use of electricity because fossil fuels are burned for producing electricity. We can minimize the use of water heaters and air conditioners. We can avoid cutting down trees. We can manage solid waste in a proper manner so that they don't rot outside, releasing methane. We can plant more trees. Plants and trees absorb carbon dioxide and release oxygen. We can use bicycles for short distance travel. When we build our houses, we can build them in such a way that they allow natural light to come in and also well ventilated so that we minimize the use of lights during the daytime as well as minimize the use of air conditioners. We can use solar water heaters. We can also use solar panels and small wind turbines for generation of electricity. We can charge a battery using the power generated, and using an inverter we can use the AC power that we normally require. By doing these things, we can actually reduce the amount of fossil fuels burned for the production of electricity. Thanks for watching.